Hey everybody, it's Micah. I've been reading a book recently called Win Bigly by a guy named Scott Adams. I actually read his previous book called uh, How to Lose at Almost Everything and Still Win Big. So this is kind of his follow up. He is actually a professional cartoonist and he's a very famous one. He makes the Dilbert comics. uh, he kind of he in those two books he talks about persuasion, how to in the how to lose at almost everything book. He says that he's trying to teach you how to persuade yourself. But in the Win Bigly book, he is teaching how to persuade others. So I finished his first book and now I'm starting on this other book. And already he has a couple references in there that I'm interested in reading next. The first one is called Persuasion, which is a book by another famous, is he a hypnotist? I don't know if he's a hypnotist, but it's a book that Scott Adams often references in his own book. And another book is The Power of Positive Thinking, which is also, according to Adams, it's a very influential book, especially on Donald Trump. So, of course, I'm interested in learning ways of succeeding and learning how to persuade other people. So I'm interested in those future books, but I've been focused on this first book. And one of the interesting things that popped out at me was that he says something very interesting. He says a clear view of reality wasn't necessary for our survival. Evolution cares only that you survive long enough to procreate. The worst thing your brain could do is reinterpret your reality into a whole new movie with each new bit of information. That would be exhausting and without benefit. So, on that first point about evolution, what he says is that we aren't really evolved to understand reality, and this is a philosophical debate about the knowability of reality, and he is on the side that we can't know reality. Uh, and in an evolutionary sense, there's no real benefit to knowing about reality because all we need to know is how to procreate and get to that point where we can procreate, and then we've basically done our work on an evolutionary basis. Uh, of course, that does leave out um, long term survival rather than just short term survival. For example, small tribes of people that don't that don't understand things about reality that would give them the ability to create new technologies can't grow beyond a certain point before they collapse or before they split off into new tribes. And people in those tribes typically don't have very long lifespans. So, of course, you can have a small group of people survive in that space, but each individual does not survive for a long time. And not very many people can survive in a long time for a long time with that kind of mindset. Whereas uh, a, a desire to know reality and the belief that it is possible to know reality drives other people to create technologies that do allow us to live much longer and to have much more complex, larger societies. So I'm not entirely convinced by what he has to say about that, but I am. I do believe what he says that the worst thing your brain could do is reinterpret your reality into a whole new movie with each new bit of information. What he's talking about is the fact that many people apply assumptions to they how can I say, they have certain knowledge about the world that they basically kind of automize. How do I say, automaton? They It's just kind of automatic knowledge for them. So they kind of take for granted that something is true when it may not be true. But that's because really it would be exhausting to constantly question the state of reality, to say, am I here? Are the walls really walls and they're not bread or whatever? Like, you can't constantly be looking at things and trying to reinterpret reality and try to think, what is that really? Usually you can just walk, and this is something that Jordan Peterson talks about, that people's ability to comprehend detail is different, and we basically are designed to make information irrelevant to ourselves. For example, we don't walk into a room and look at all the details in the entire room and look at everything. We kind of take for granted that there are walls and there are kind of color and maybe they have cracks or maybe they don't. We don't really know the textures. We don't think about where the dust is, whatever. So there's only a certain amount of information that we can handle. And we purposefully, well, we don't really purposefully, our brains are designed to make certain kinds of information irrelevant to us so that we can focus on the things that are actually important. So Scott Adams and Jordan Peterson are in sync in this particular point. It's a very interesting book. I'm still not even halfway through it yet, but once I get done with it, I think I'll give a longer review of the book. I plan on reading a lot more this year than I have in previous years. If I'm going to be spending a lot of time on the train, I might as well use it to learn stuff, so that's what I plan to do. Anyway, that's it for today, and I'll see you next time.